At this time, we did a survey of people that were using magnetic pads. We took 100 people and tried them out, and we found some interesting things. 75% of the people who tried them for arthritis had at least a 50% reduction in pain. Those who tried them for migraine headaches, 90% had complete relief of their migraine pains. PMS was a very interesting thing. We didn't think this would happen, but people called in and said, you know, I don't have PMS symptoms anymore. Matter of fact, we did a study later on with 6 very, very severe cases of PMS that was done independently by an MD, and we found that we eliminated their PMS symptoms on these 6 people. So this is a wonderful thing for them. We also found that a lot of people found that they had bought it for heart conditions and that they had a drop in blood pressure. Chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, they seem to go together, but they are 2 different diseases. But the people that had bought them for those 2 diseases, because one was lack of energy and the other one was soreness throughout the body, found that if they slept on the magnetic pad, they had a substantial reduction in symptoms. So we did a study, a pilot study on chronic fatigue. And again, we used 6 of the worst patients that hadn't responded to any other kind of treatment, either allopathic or complementary. They had a 75% reduction in their symptoms within 6 months. So that again shows that this does help rebuild the cells, and so that they're functioning much more efficiently. When we noticed early on that people with fibromyalgia were getting significant help from the magnetic pads, we did a double-blind study in Toronto. There was 34 patients in this study, and half of them had magnetic pads and half of them had placebo pads. And the patients on the magnetic pads had 2.5 times the improvement in their condition that the ones on the placebo pads. Now, having looked at this study, the University of Virginia decided to do a much larger study and compare different types of magnetic fields. So at the University of Virginia study, they had 111 people in that study, and they had about half of them on Niken pads, which is a bipolar field, and half of them on our magnetical pads. Now, this was also placebo, so we had to have placebo Niken pads and placebo magnetical pads. And so it was a well-done study, and they found in that study that the ones on the magnetical pad had a 32.4% reduction in overall pain, as opposed to the placebo, which was 7.5% reduction in pain. So it was significant, and again shows that magnetical pads do help with fibromyalgia. An interesting side note to this study, the Niken pad showed a 10% reduction in overall global pain as compared to the placebo pads, which is 7.5%, so it was not significant. However, they did have a significant reduction in pain in their tender points on the back, but not on the front of the person. They got much worse, and that's why the overall pain ratings weren't very good. And so, as you can see, there is some benefit to a bipolar field, but it doesn't have the benefit that the unipolar field does. In our early survey, we found that the people who had bought the magnetic pads for insomnia had significant improvement. 69% of them were sleeping at least 50% better. This was determined by the reduction in the amount of sleeping pills necessary to get sleep and the length of time with which they were able to sleep. The last part of the survey was about how much more energy do you have now than before you got on the magnetic pad. 43% of the people had an increase in energy level. In a recent study, which is a pilot epidemiological study, we took 924 people throughout the United States and put them on a magnetic pad for 3.5 years. Now, these people were people that were more interested in health than others, but we wanted to find out what effect the sleeping on long-term on a magnetic pad would have with the incidence of cancer and cardiovascular disease. To our amazement, the people on the magnetic pad had a 78% reduction in the new incidence of cancer and a 86% reduction in the new incidence of cardiovascular disease. Now, this needs to be followed up with a much larger study over a longer period of time with a population of people that aren't interested in health, and so that we can confirm these studies. But this, as a preliminary study, is very exciting. We're currently doing a study on osteoporosis. The first person on that study had a dramatic improvement. She's been on the magnetic pad now, which is a super pad, which is 4 times stronger than we did use in all the other studies. And she's been on there for 8 months. And to our amazement, she's went from a minus 1.8 reading on her bone density to a plus 4.5. Now, this is phenomenal. This has never happened to anybody before in 8 months. So we're anxious to see what will happen with the other participants in the study. And you'll be hearing more about that in the future. You notice we've been saying all along how important it is to have the magnetic field go through the body the right direction. So we need to build a magnetic pad underneath your mattress that's going to have a unidirectional field going through your body, just like the Earth, only enhancing the Earth's magnetic field. Because you remember, if we had the magnetic field going the wrong way, it slowed down the electrons, and you'd be like the people on the bed that they could hardly get out of bed when we reversed the magnetic field. So ideally, you would have then a magnetic field going one way through your body. Now, there is a lot of magnetic pads made out there that have both positive and negative. Any magnetic bed that is on top of your mattress, you're getting both positive and negative fields. So what happens when you have just a little bit of positive and a lot of negative? Well, what you're getting is acupuncture along with the magnetic field. Now, how do you get acupuncture? Well, there's been quite a bit of work done on that now, and one of the first things we realized when we reversed the magnetic field, so you gave a part of the body positive field, not the whole body, but just part of the body goes into an emergency response. That emergency response is identical to that of acupuncture. That's been well validated by Dr. Saul Lisk and Dr. Lawrence and myself. Now, acupuncture is not bad. We use it and get a lot of good benefit from it. But doing it on a continual basis is not good because you run down the chi, or the vitality. And it's one of the cardinal rules of acupuncture that you don't do it continuously. You give a 1-hour treatment, then have the patient back a week later and do another treatment. Otherwise, you'll run down the vitality and you don't get any response. So when we apply a bipolar field, both positive and negative, to the body, then we are running down the vitality. And with time, when we run down the vitality, we run down the immunity and make the body more susceptible to disease. So it's very important now that you have a magnetic field that is only like the Earth, that goes right through the body and with no positive field. Now, remember what I said, any magnetic pad that's put on top of the mattress gives you both positive and negative. What is the reason for that? Well, there's in between each magnet, there's little peaks of positive, as you can see here, that emanate up between the magnets. And if you're laying right on it, you're going to be in those peaks of positive, and they're quite strong positive, and they'll set off the emergency response, which will work good at first, but with time, you pay. If, when you place your present magnetic pad underneath your mattress, you don't have any effect, then you might want to consider getting one of ours, because our weakest one is 30% stronger than the strongest of anybody else's. Now, we also make a double strength and a quadruple strength, and the stronger they are, the more effect you'll get. So you notice we said that stronger is better. We wondered about this in the early stages, and so we started building stronger and stronger magnetic devices, and we've now come up with this patented device called the Magnetic Molecular Energizer, which focuses a very powerful magnetic field through the diseased or injured part of the body.